Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the brand new Pat McGrath Mothership VIII palette, the Divine Rose 2. So I'm going to give you some swatches. I'm going to compare it to the Divine Rose 1 palette. I'm also going to compare one shade that I thought could be duped by one of her earlier palettes. I'll show you that comparison swatch. I'll give you my thoughts on the palette, and then we'll get into the demo of this eye look. Just to let you know, this particular Divine Rose palette that I have, this is the one with the black cover. This is the outer box packaging that it came with. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous artwork as usual. Isn't that incredible? So I purchased this off of Sephora. It came lickety split. I think I purchased it yesterday. It arrived this morning and I couldn't be happier, except for a few minor things like my box is kind of crushed and falling apart. That's okay. The cover of my palette, there's a lot of my fingerprints as you can see, but it's actually like, oh, right there, you can see that it's like actually permanently scratched in some places. So I'm trying to decide what to do with this one. I'm probably going to keep it because I love it so much. But I did order the pink outer packaging of the Divine Rose 2 palette off of the Pat McGrath site. That, however, is not supposed to get to me until like, I don't know, like later next week or something. We'll see. We'll see. I'm not going to harp on the Pat McGrath shipping and customer service situation. It hasn't changed. I've talked about it in the past, so whatever. We're going to move on. So this palette is available at Sephora, but only with the black packaging. So here is a close look at the actual palette on the inside. So we have 2 matte shades, and then the rest of the shades have some sort of shine or satin sheen or glitter to them. And this palette, like all of the other Pat McGrath Mothership palettes, is $125. It is exactly like all of the other ones. It's very, very weighty. It has the beveled mirror on the inside. Absolutely gorgeous. So let me go ahead and show you some swatches of these. So how I swatched them is I swatched the first 3 across here, the bottom row 3 across here, and then I did the 4 shades from left to right, top to bottom. So first we have the Skin Show Rose Opal, Naked Blush, Eleganza, Extreme Burgundy, Divine Dusk, Rose Seduction, and then here are the special shades. We have Bronze Rosé 005, Gold Lust 001, VR Sextra Terrestrial, and then we have Astral Pink Moon. It takes all of my strength not to giggle every time I say Sextra Terrestrial. All of these shades are Pat McGrath quality. They are beautiful, they're pigmented, they blend beautifully, they swatch beautifully, as you can see, and they just have such a richness to them. This Divine Rose 2 palette really is like a medium to deeper skin tone friendly version of the Divine Rose. The Divine Rose was cooler toned, and it was much lighter and paler in feel. The entire palette, all the colors are just lighter and paler. So this is a really great compliment to that particular palette. I think what I love so much about this particular palette is that we really have a lot of different tones going on here. This Naked Blush matte shade here is pretty peachy, so it's a pretty warm kind of tone. But then we have like Eleganza, very, very cool toned. And then we have this really bright Rose Seduction, really, really amazing. This color, this VR Sextra Terrestrial, that I think I got so many questions about. People were like, can you find a dupe for that? Can you make sure you swatch it clearly, etc., etc. This looks like it's light pink in the palette. And it's like, oh, okay, so it shifts to something a little bit deeper. This shade actually, for me, how I've used it, how it's come across for me, is a very, very dark green color, and then it shifts to that pink. So it's a little bit deceptive in this pan. I cannot find, for me personally, I don't have a lot of shades like this. I don't have a lot of duochromes. I'm sure one of those indie brands that does a lot of duochromes, like Cleona and maybe JD Glow, am I remembering that correctly? Definitely Cleona. I know they have a lot of like duochrome shades and multi-chrome shades, and they probably have something that is similar to this. I don't know if they have something that looks light pink in the pan and then comes across as more of like a deep green, but it is stunning. This shade, even though it's very surprising, is incredibly stunning. Basically, the deep green color that you're getting out of here is like the stem of the rose. I feel like you mix this with any of these other kind of pink shades, or even all in and of itself, you get like the stem of the rose and then the actual color of the petals of the rose. It's such the perfect shift between that green and the pink. It's so beautiful. I absolutely love it. I have it basically on the outer corners of my eyes, and I have it down underneath my lash line, along my lower lash line. And you can see how deep that color is. I use that shade to give me depth. I basically use these 3 shades. I would have loved to use all of them, but I think the more you try and pile on from a Pat McGrath palette, the more you're kind of detracting from each shade. So I used these 3 shades and then this one. So these 4 is what I focused on. And I love the look. For me personally, it takes a lot for me to get out of my comfort zone. I really like to, I don't know, I guess like play by the rules. Like I like cool tones with cool tones. I like warm tones with warm tones, but I mix like the warm and the cool, and then this really fiery hot kind of pink, and then this crazy color that like shifts in ways that you can't even imagine. I put all of those on and I was like, wow, I love this eye look. I think it works. I think it's absolutely beautiful. And what I see on my lids, I just see like a rose. I see like the rose petal, and then I see the rose stem. I just really, really love it. So why don't I show you my swatches of the Divine Rose palette underneath swatches of the Divine Rose 1 palette. So this is what you'll see up top. And by comparison, this almost looks like someone turned on like the black white filter on here, right? Doesn't it? Just looks so much lighter and washed out compared to the Divine Rose. So I basically swatched the Divine Rose in the same way. I went across the first 3, then the bottom 3, and then I did the special shades from left to right, top to bottom. So that's what you'll see on top. So I think if you're a lover of color, if you want something a little bit more vibrant for your collection, then the Divine Rose 2 is definitely the way to go. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious by looking at these palettes. I think I'm pointing out the obvious. Let's move on to the one shade that I thought maybe could be duped in the Divine Rose 2 palette, and that is that Rose Seduction shade, this really hot pink shade that I know my eye goes to immediately. I took out my La Vie en Rose palette. This is one of those smaller ones that I think has been discontinued. I'm not sure if this is still available on Sephora. I don't think so. Maybe on the Pat McGrath site. Anyway, this is probably my least favorite palette from hers because I just didn't think the quality was there. But this Rose Risque color was actually pretty nice. It was this shade and I think this shade that did not work. Definitely this shade I don't think worked well. Anyway, that's beside the point. This Rose or Rose, let me see. Rose Risque color I thought could be very similar. So I swatched this one on top of the Rose Seduction shade. And they definitely have like a similar pinkness to them, but the finish of the Rose Seduction shade is a little bit more metallic. So I think it's like, it's a little shinier, there's a little bit more of a sheen to it, and I think in certain lighting it'll look a little bit lighter. So that is a minor difference, but if that is like the one shade you really wanted in Divine Rose 2 and you have this La Vie en Rose palette, it may not be worth it. I do think the Rose Seduction, the one in the Mothership palette, performs a little bit better than the La Vie en Rose. But if you're just looking for like that hot pink shade and you have this, you may not need the Mothership VIII palette. So I'm sure it comes as no surprise. I absolutely love this palette. It's so Pat McGrath. It's so fun and the quality is so there. These metallic shades are so creamy, and these special shades, just like all of her other special shades, they just are so much fun. They're so interesting. You just want to use them over and over again. Even for someone like me who, you know, wears pretty boring makeup, I just want to play. And that's what I think I love so much about Pat McGrath's makeup. They're so inspiring and they really bring out like the makeup lover in me, like the person that wants to just play with makeup. So I love this palette. Definitely does not disappoint. So let's go ahead and jump into the demo of this eye look. All right, so I'm gonna start with the Naked Blush shade. It's this peachy matte shade. And I've got my Blender Pro brush from Sonia G. Just gonna tap it in there gently. The Pat McGrath shadows are very pigmented. I'm going to take a little bit of the Naked Blush and mix it in with this Skin Show shade, the lighter shade, just to lighten it up a little bit and bring that up higher. I'm taking a big clean blender brush. This is my Esom G29 brush, and I just want to run it across this top edge. It just doesn't look blend it out. Oh yeah, there we go. That was easy. Just needs a clean brush with no pigment to kind of smooth everything over there. Just evening out the two eyes. I felt like this had more color than this side. Next, I'm going to take my Esom W21 brush. This is like a flat shader brush. And I'm going to go into Eleganza. And I'm going to apply this all over the lid, focusing it on the inner corner. And then blending it out. Up and out. I really like that combo. This is definitely a cooler shade mixed in with that kind of warmer peach. I think that's such a pretty combo. All right, of course, I have to use the Rose Seduction shade, the hot pink shade here. I'm basically gonna start with where the metallic shade ends, the Eleganza, and just kind of see how deep it is. So I'm gonna use my Chikuhodo GSN 9 brush. I'm gonna go into this, I keep forgetting the name, Rose Seduction. I'm actually gonna focus it on like the outer corner here. And just drag a bit of that over onto the Eleganza shade. I'm gonna take my original Blender Pro brush and just blend this out a bit. And then next I'm going to take my finger and grab some of this VR Sextra Terrestrial. I'm going to use my ring finger, just pick up a little bit. And I'm just going to tap this just a little bit on the outer corner because it really comes off a lot darker than I think it appears in the pan. I'm going to take my GSN 9 brush again and just kind of lightly brush it over this extraterrestrial shade. I feel ridiculous saying that word. Sextraterrestrial. See how like deep that shade looks, but then like as soon as I turn, it just looks like it's pink. Oh my God, isn't that amazing? All right, that is it for the palette. I'm just gonna go ahead and finish up my look and I'll be right back. Actually, I just applied some eyeliner and I thought I wanted to bring this Sextraterrestrial shade down onto my lower lash line. I'm not sure if that was the best choice. I kind of like it. I mean, you know, this is a Pat McGrath look, so it's going to be a little funky. It's going to be a little intergalactic. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I'm just using my Sonicji mini booster brush and just kind of dragging it along my lower lash line. All right, now I'm gonna go and put on my mascara and put on some lips and I'll be right back. All right, so here is my final look. I will link to everything down below in my description box that I have on my face. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This palette is so special. I already gave you all of my thoughts, so I'm not gonna bore you any further, but let me know what you're thinking down below in the comment section. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video.